Intro music roll first.
The weekly way. Oh, I can't spread the nose. The weekly way. Oh, can't tell me who. The weekly way. Did you see it? The weekly way. I'm glad stopping by. Take him to him, baby. Take him up again. Tell me who? The weekly way. Yeah. The weekly way. In the nose. The weekly way.
Spirit, I'm bopping. You know what I'm saying? On all levels except physical, I am bopping. The
All
fuck.
levels sub-physical, deep. Let's let it rip. Sappha, what's going on, player?
Hi,
Thanks for making the time.
player. I like put that in my vocabulary because of you.
I love player because it's gender neutral and it also makes people assume that, like, I want you to do some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like, it steps up the game
You're
a little bit.
Oh, I'm a player.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm about to act up.
Pimps and players, put your hands up. I think that's I normally will start off shows by asking all pimps, players, and affiliates to shake some ass, and I think I took most of that from what's the comedian? He's a really short guy with like his hair like curls out, always wears a nice suit. He's also a Cincinnati guy.
He's a comedian?
Yeah, comedian.
In Cincinnati?
No, he's from Cincinnati,
Oh, okay.
but he's a pretty big time comedian. Fuck, I can't remember his name. I will be back for this in a little bit.
I
but
want to know.
yes.
I love, repping Cincinnati.
No, we got to rep the team. Are you born and raised Cincy?
I am.
What part?
Actually from Ross, so about 30 minutes north, really close to Hamilton.
Nice.
Hamilton's usually, I don't know. Ross is kind of getting on the map though, but
Hamilton's a bumpin' little city that people don't expect a lot from. But the few
Yeah.
times I've gone up there, I'm like, wow, this really, because Hamilton folks claim that before they claim Cincinnati. Whereas like I grew up
Yes.
25 minutes north of the city, but I'm gonna say Cincinnati. That's my
Yes.
hometown. Hamilton folks don't fuck with that. Okay, they hold true to the game. So would you claim, if you're out of town, someone asks you, are you from Hamilton, or would you say the Cincinnati?
I would probably say Hamilton, because I feel like, I don't know, growing up in a small town for most of my life definitely like had an impact on my upbringing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Cincinnati, like wherever you are, the playing field is a little bigger. But I grew up first near like Dry Ridge, and I went to Catholic school there. And
Cool.
then when I was in 7th grade, I moved to Ross. So I think I moved around a couple times before then. So I was kind of all over the fucking place.
Nice. Done with the Catholic school thing after that?
Yes.
Every year of education I've ever had has been in Catholic schools through college. A nutty way to do it, for sure.
Whoa. Wait,
Yeah.
you were in Catholic school till college?
Through college, yeah, all the
Through
way.
college?
Yeah, so Catholic grade school, high school, and college. I went to Xavier.
Whoa.
So I am not the most involved in the practice at this point, but like it's a neat cult to grow up in. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
got things going on.
Oh, yeah. There's tons of stuff.
There's
happening.
tons of stuff. Hey, you know what relics are?
I don't think so.
So a relic means like you have a part of a saint, like a fragment of bone or something like that, and you know people perceive that to be holy. I was telling my bass player Kanan about that, and it really freaked him out. I'm like, dude, this is a pretty in-depth cult. We got stuff going on you've never heard of. Yeah. Do you have much of a faith life at this point? Are you more of just like a spiritual, non-denominational kind of person?
I would say spiritual non-denominational, for sure.
And when did you kind of veer into that category? Did you grow up like went to church with parents, follow what they did, and then eventually kind of found your own thing?
Yeah. I would say I believed it when I was younger, and then around like 8th grade, I was just like, I'd kind of been skeptical a little bit before then. Like I was the type of kid, I was like on recess. I was at recess with like a notebook of like gods that I had come up with, and just like I drew pictures of them.
What a
And
heavy
I-
thing in grade school, yo.
Yeah, I was was like, what if we like pray to my gods on the playground type beat? And I got a bunch of kids to do that.
How many kids in any kind of religious grade school would actually begin to create pagan gods and then be like, why don't you guys come over to my team? Like, that's so wild. You're out
It was
here,
dope.
you're evangelizing for a faith that you're making. You're pretty much a Scientologist at that point. Like, you could have followed a different career path. I'm telling you, that would have been pretty neat.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I was meant to be a cult leader. But that's kind of like what I've taken on with Sappha a little bit. Because I feel like I've been revisiting Catholicism in a really different way. Like when I was in 8th grade and when I was like, okay, I'm not this anymore, Mom and Dad. I'm an atheist. And like it was a big deal because I felt like it was something that was imposed on me. A lot of like the teachers were really shitty. I'm sure you had like some really crazy stories with Catholic educators because they're so strict and like I feel like boundaries were just not there, and sometimes they would try to parent you and tell you what to believe, and I'm like, I don't know if that's what you're supposed to be doing as a teacher.
Well, I think when you go to a school that has that kind of like either religious undertone or religious kind of vocation, people feel a lot more open with being heavy-handed with making sure you fall into the guidelines of it. And I would have a hard time saying whether that's good or bad for every kid. I think every kid's different. But when you start to see a kid question what is in the unknown and you say, no, it's known and this is what you got to go with, that's where you kind of squander imagination for a lot of kids. And that's the point in time where you need to enjoy that outlet and learn how you interact with that outlet. You know, like it's pretty harmful to tell kids that the way that you're starting to imagine things outside of what you look at, hear, and touch every day is going to be anything.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like you shouldn't be the one to tell me how to play that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you went atheist and then you kind of came back to, do you see one God, many gods? How do you kind of parse that out in your life?
I kind of feel like my spirituality is mostly about other people and helping other people. And I really vibe with is it pantheism, the idea. Like I don't subscribe to anything ideologically strictly, but I do really like the idea that like everyone is God. You are me, I am God, everyone is God, and we should treat each other in a way that is godly and respectful.
And that's interesting too because it has the main part of that character for all of us is like to create, to feel like we are taking part in creation, but we're also creating with the life that we have. And there's only so much time that we all get here. So to allow your being to have output that interacts with other people and helps them develop their output and kind of moves forward, like it's part of the call of the artistry and whatnot.
Yeah.
So you were saying that it kind of played into you developing Sappha. And you had a band before Sappha and before you did like your solo venture?
Yeah, I started releasing music under the name Levi Rose when I started learning guitar and just writing little acoustic stuff. And then I have a band currently called Mall Witch, which is like very different end of the spectrum than Sappha. It's like super kind of post-punk, alternative rock. I just started screaming for it, like learning how to actually do vocal fry screaming. And it's very like cathartic, angry, a lot of like social justice themed messages. And then Sappha is like all super personal to me. And when I began writing stuff about growing up Catholic a couple years ago, I released this song called Holy Water. And it was for my mom, and it was kind of like an ode to her, because a lot of my teenage years, I think understandably, I was very angry about what I had been through growing up Catholic and a lot of the shame that I internalized as a result of growing up in that environment and just feeling like I couldn't express myself. I had to be a good girl, like just a typical, like very blank canvas person, and just kind of accept whatever was told to me. I felt very controlled, and so I was lashing out, and I lashed out against my parents. I think partially reasonably, because I was like, you are imposing this upon me, so of course there's going to be a reaction. Yeah. But later in life, I think you're kind of forced to, when you grow up, like see things from your parents' perspective and see that sometimes, even though they make really, really wrong decisions, they're doing the best they can with what they have and the equipment that they have. And kind of extending empathy to my mom and how she's reacted to some of the traumatizing things that she's been through, and how her faith like emboldened her to act in certain ways to protect herself and to protect the people around her. Like, I found that really admirable, and I kind of like understood that as I was older in a really different way. So Holy Water was about, yeah, just intergenerational trauma and like the things that me and my mom have been through and how we reacted to them differently. I think maybe based on her having faith and me like not having faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird that you extend this this support system that you've tried to develop to your kids because you want them to have the tools they need to get through life and all the obstacles that come along with it. But like you kind of said, there's a point in everyone's development where your parents become less a figure of guidance and more a peer in your
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
And I'm very close with my parents. They have been super supportive of me in this career path. Like I said, like we're currently working out of their basement. They've been all on board since the beginning of it.
That's dope. And same. Yeah, I've been really blessed in that regard. Like, they've always supported me doing whatever I want.
But to let your parents become your friends at some point in your life, like that's kind of the major deciding factor of did you do well at this? You know, like do your kids start to see you as a person that they want to spend time with? Because you can do everything you want in your life about controlling your kids and trying to make them into what you want them to be. But at some point, they're going to fight you back. Like, it's going to stop being an easy situation of we're together on this or we're never going to see eye to eye because of this.
Yeah.
So, musically, when did you find that you needed to venture into the solo category to delve into some of these more personal topics rather than, like you said, like Malwich kind of has a collective tone of progression, and this is more like this is my own personal bag of development?
Yeah. I just feel like a lot of it is my own kind of bubble of privacy that I've had for a really long time with my music. A lot of heavier stuff. I mean, I do write somewhat about personal stuff with Malwich, but Sappha, in my mind, like when I visualize this persona that I've been building and like writing songs under the name as for several years, she's just kind of a god, I guess. She's like the best version of myself. She's like the most realized version of myself, and I like a lot of Catholic imagery, but now also versions of female divinity from other cultures. Like I've kind of been veering into music from other cultures and trying to just take little snippets of things that inspire me.
Yeah. And when you're going in for musical inspiration, I was really interested the other night in getting to hear like your production work, you know, kind of aside from your vocals. And with that looper setup, sometimes it's hard to, you know, on the mixing side, I can't separate these two things. So I'm either enraptured by the vocal or the production. But when did you start trying your hand at painting the full picture of what you want this to sound like?
I love talking about production. I started when I was 18, and I just used Audacity. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
Just the little free program where you hit record. And I don't even think you can do MIDI or anything in there, but you can just record and loop and do like basic effects. So.
And when you first started, was it just I got a USB microphone and I have this program, and you're just doing vocal stacks, or how did you kind of develop your sound with little tools and that kind of DAW?
I recorded definitely some harmonies, and I grew up in choir, so I always have been really interested in harmony and that just haunting, reverby, like choral sound. So I did a lot of stuff like that, and I would loop my ukulele, and I just learned ukulele because I was like, I don't have anyone to accompany me, so I'm gonna learn the easiest instrument in humanity, which was the uke, and that was super chill. And then I learned keys, and I started picking up more instruments over time to like just be able to enter the studio and like, okay, what instrument do I want to plop in here?
There's a great freedom in being able to articulate the things you hear, and like, you know, you're the medium for these ideas to come into the DAW and then to have space to be manipulated. But it's so hard to dictate certain things when you're talking about like organic instruments versus electronic instruments in like the MIDI world. When did you switch to a DAW that kind of had tonalities you could pull from it? Like, where'd you end up going?
So I got a MacBook eventually when I was like, okay, we're going to do the production thing. We're going to do it all ourselves. And then I started working in GarageBand and then Logic, because Logic is just GarageBand with extra steps.
Yeah, it's just a little less degrading of pictures, but it's the same sounds. Like, it's really hilarious how, like, people really feel so differently about Logic. It's like, honestly, I kind of feel like I wasted $200. Like, because you can change the pictures. I don't need to lie to myself. Like, I know this is all Apple programs just have a feel about them that's just smooth. Yeah. But they really are babying us, and the pictures is the only way you feel differently, and it's crazy that made me feel like I had esteem, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, you get
graduated.
Like 2 extra street cred points for using Logic instead of GarageBand. Wow, yes. Yeah.
But now Ableton has taken over the game, and it's like, am I being soft for not making the jump? Probably, but I'm scared.
I'm scared as hell.
Yeah.
Can we please say live on the air, I'm fucking scared of Ableton, bro.
Wait, anytime you make that switch, I respect people that can look at any DAW and know what they're gonna do and how they're gonna develop it, and just kind of work through the math problem of how does this work in my signal flow, and then what's gonna be like the most basic definition, because the plugin game's probably the hardest.
I'm so scared of learning Ableton, but yeah, plugins will make it easier.
Yes, but there's that level of like, okay, in Logic, you're gonna have plugins that are named similarly to what the analog equipment is that they're trying to model, but it won't be the actual name because they don't have that fucking license.
Yeah.
You know, and so have you ever used like, what kind of interface you use?
I have a Vault AI 22.
Cool. So you're in the Universal Audio world. Like, they have those clear licenses where you can get the stuff that looks like the equipment. And for some reason, that's also a self-esteem booster. Like, I hate to admit, like, it makes me feel classy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm probably never making that switch. But so what age are you when you're getting GarageBand for the first time and kind of having all this MIDI landscape to play with?
I think I was 19 when I got GarageBand, but I had played with it before in like grade school during music class, where they're like, you can just make whatever, and I was like, I want to do this forever. Let's go.
And is that when Sappha as a character kind of emerged? Like, it was your independence opened up, and now you started to see this version of yourself, like you had kind of seen, like, this is me unfiltered at its best. You know, I'm gonna be a goddess above whatever I could be myself, you know?
Yeah, I recorded a lot with ukulele and a little bit with guitar when I first started, and then the more that once I started self-producing, the more that I produced, the more I fell in love with the process of just opening up a blank canvas in whatever DAW. Sometimes I used BandLab and Soundtrap, by the way, which are web-based DAWs. So you just log on and they're always saved on the internet, so you can pull them up anywhere.
Super convenient.
Very cool. Yeah, I pay for a Soundtrap monthly subscription, and then BandLab is free, which is crazy because they also have like mastering services that are free. Yeah, don't sleep on BandLab if you produce. It's like very crazy good.
So I feel very overwhelmed by the blank canvas. Like, if I open up Logic, like, I need to have an idea of, I'm kind of more in the traditional songwriter realm where I'm going to play this on acoustic guitar vocal, and I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to start to kind of flush around there. So it's interesting to hear that you feel comfortable looking at all the ways this landscape could go. What's the first thing you put in the DAW?
Ooh, usually like a synth or a bass line is a lot of how I start, and then I'll think of melodies over it, but I have a huge master doc in my phone of lyrics, so I'm also always looking at like old demos and then just thinking of a line in my head, and I'm like, wait, I could sing that over this keyboard part, or this is in the same key in my head as this song. Maybe it would fit there, or I slow it down and it would. Yeah, I have a lot of works in progress that I've been building for Sappha for several years.
And which do you prefer, when you kind of fit the puzzle piece of, I've loved this lyric for a while and it's never had a home, or this bass line made me say this and now we're running with this whole new idea that has no legs to it. It's time to figure out how to put foot to the ground with it.
I think usually like a bass line that already exists. I'm so good at like hearing stuff on the spot. It's like the eternal problem of like finishing something that you've done, right? Like fleshing it out fully, because then you hear something new and you're like, shiny new idea, way to say something that I've already talked about in a million different ways before.
Yeah.
So what I've been trying to do when I get a new idea is be like, wait, how can we fit this into a pre-existing demo?
That's interesting. Well, it's tough to kind of cram musical parts into existing pieces, especially as you get to 70% done, 71%, we're 80% done.
Yes.
Like, where's this synth line really going to go?
That's the spot, yeah, where you're like, oh, I need a bridge, or like, I need the last bit of like transitions in the mix, or like I need to tweak the instruments. Like that's the part that you can just like lose yourself in for a really long time. Do you produce your own?
So I recently started producing my own stuff. For the longest time, I had gone to other folks for that. And one thing I was going to say that I really felt in this last EP cycle was building on subjective decisions after a while starts to be kind of worrisome on the mind. Like, you start to stress how something you chose months ago is now interacting with the decisions you're trying to make, and you think about pulling the house of cards apart.
Yes.
You know, and like in that fucking chaos, like there's a different level of manic that comes along in that.
Or do you ever revisit something, that you've been working on for a long time, and you're like, I didn't finish the vocals, and so now if I record new vocals, how am I going to match that tone? Or has my voice aged? Or, that's always really trippy.
Yeah. I was reading Rick Rubin's book last night. Like I said, I quit smoking, so occasionally I'll step out with like a cigar and just try to like, help a craving, but also just enjoy like a different.
Yeah, should I be like dangling this in front of you right now?
No, because I respect that it's still there for my friends, and eventually I'll be back to the game. And I think it's such a positive thing for people that I have no qualms with it,
I love that.
But I'm out there smoking my stogie, reading Rick Rubin's wise words.
Fuck yeah, brother.
But one thing he was saying was like, even if you're sitting at the same desk in the same temperature, with the same lights on and everything, all the X variables can line up, you are not the same. The performance will not be the same. There are similarities, but it's hard to recapture that thing. And one of my first mentors always told me, especially about vocals, you can't come back and do this again because the matching process is hellish.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
Comping vocals is a nightmare.
Yeah. I don't think that's a definite rule. I think it's kind of it's a little dramatic to say you can't. Yeah, exactly.
I still do it. And sometimes you can't tell, but it's like it's literally down to Bjork talks about this a lot in interviews. It's like different microphones can capture different sounds, but also like moving really close to the microphone. The distance from where you speak into it affects the quality of your voice, the frequencies that it's going to pick up, and how much high and low, and like the sibilants. Like all the consonants coming out. Like you might hear them less if I'm back here, but you might hear them a lot when I'm up here.
Yeah, I was listening to this guy that has a page called Beat Kitchen, which is just like great informational stuff about recording. Yeah, and he said more important than the actual capture radius of the microphone is the rejection field. So how your proximity matters more in terms of what hits the null zones rather than what's actually being captured. And that's quite the mind fuck. It's rather upsetting,
Yes.
But at least, if you leave your mic in the same place, like do you record at home most of the time?
Yeah.
So if you can leave it in the same place and you're like, my nose touched the pop filter, like I know I'm getting that close. You can start to close the gap a little bit, but everything about that moment and this moment, like making them congruent, ain't gonna happen.
Yes.
It's easier between sections. It's easier to come back and say the bridge is gonna sound different. Duh. So I don't need it to be like that. But
and like how hydrated you are that day can affect so much can affect your tone, and so you can. It makes you think differently about your voice. I think when you get that intimate when you're recording yourself, like you just ideally a lot of the cues and like things that you need to do beforehand to like be ready, because you can sound so different. I mean, there's no visuals to it. So when I get in front of a microphone, I'm like, who do I want to be today? And that's a lot of what I'm thinking about with Sappha too, is like I'm doing these really crazy storytelling songs where it's about me and things that have happened in my life, but it's from the perspective of like a woman who is a god, or like a Greek king, or like just taking on different personas and like telling things that have happened to me, but through like a narrator who's had a different experience than me, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in developing that character, once it clicks, but I don't know how you feel personally about like if you've achieved this thing or not. But I'd say for me, the last 5 years of my life have been looking at my heroes and trying to derive from them what I want to be. And it's hard to picture yourself as anything other than yourself a lot of the times. Like when you're listening to your vocals back, there's this interesting interaction with like you can't be afraid of your own voice. It's the only voice you got. But not all of us really enjoy the sound of our own voice being played into our headphones and having to listen to it in this very intimate kind of sphere. But if you can separate yourself from it, now you have a much more objective choice of what's good and what's bad. And I feel like, your passion for videography and your ability to watch that footage and help paint this character is probably a big part in finding out everything you want Sappha to be, correct?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of visualizing practice that you go through to see the character more clearly?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking about music videos before I planned them. Earth Angel was probably the one that I have planned the most about. And then the plans for that music video kind of went balls to the wall anyway, so we just ended up kind of like freestyling it. But yeah, I think a lot about lyrics the most, and the story that I want to tell, and that's probably the most of where my thoughts are. Even when I'm producing, I'm just like, how do I kind of give these words a nice little bed to sit on?
Well, that's fascinating. So like the character of Sappha has a lot more to do with the choice of wording rather than the context of the song, you're kind of saying?
Yeah, totally.
I've never really thought about that because, like, when I think about character, like, I think about, one thing that you and I both have in common is this love of the stage performance and kind of getting to be something different than yourself in that.
Yeah.
And you've been very kind and encouraging to me in some of the clips that I post. And when I'm on a gig with the band and I have the ability to be a little bit more bombastic and free of those things, that's where I start to get inklings of this character that I want to be. But most of the time that's in the visual playback, and I've never thought about just the normal verbiage that you choose that fits the character. Like sometimes when I'm talking about songs, I start to try to get what's the one-liner that sets up how I want people to feel about this song. Like Free Flowers. Like, this is a song about the intersection between romance and dumpster diving.
Yes.
Like, that's a definite in my life. Because it's just disturbing enough for people to be interested, and then maybe they'll like it more because it had a verbal cue before we hit it to set up context.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting in music that you can't set up all the context of what people are going to see this through, even in a music video. Like, what they went through that day, what they had for fucking lunch is going to have to do with what they're watching right now.
Yeah. But that's really interesting to think about, too. Yeah, that I think a lot of when I see Matt Waters on stage, I'm like, yeah, he's got riz. He's got charisma for sure.
Is that what riz is short for?
I think I just realized. Okay, so I just realized this a couple days ago. I was like, riz. I was like laying in bed. I was like, wait, it's short for charisma.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Because you said that, and it was just like, whew, and then you said charisma right after, and I was like, came back and clicked.
We've all been duped.
We've all. Slang is just laziness. I mean,
straight up.
So living in OTR, do you find yourself walking around feeling more inspired by being downtown amidst a lot of people? Like in Rick Rubin's book, I really was interested by. He talked about tuning into the collective consciousness when you're in a city like NYC or when you're living in a downtown space, or to the personal consciousness when you're out in nature and you only have the internal conversation going on, maybe a little bit of nature behind you.
Yeah, I think living in Over the Rhine, it probably affects my music, I think being surrounded by so many creatives really forces me to just think in a super immediate way about my work, and I'm so like ensconced in the community there and like the center of so much music that I feel like I'm taking action more with the community in mind and with the local scene in mind. So I talk to a lot of my friends and I see what they're doing, how they're promoting themselves, how I can create opportunities for them. Because so many amazing people in this community have set opportunities for me. And I think that's so important in a local community too, like in the Midwest or what have you, like a smaller, not a mainstream place where music normally comes out of. There have been, especially in the past couple years, I'm sure for you also, like a lot of people who have given me opportunities that like really gave me confidence in myself and made me want to feel like I want to create opportunities for other people, whether it's like having people on my shows or yeah, offering to like do vocals just to like help someone out with a track if they need them. Because so many people have done the same for me, and I've been really focusing on gratitude this year for that, because it's such a weird, uncertain ascent to be a local musician, and you kind of never know where the biggest stage that you're headed toward is. And so when I think about all the other people who have been like, you're amazing, like you, like, let me have you like be on this, or like, let me do something for you. That's like really touching, because in my mind, my path is so uncertain, and somebody else is just like, I know that you're awesome, and let me do something to help you.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have, not that everything's a transaction, but if you're gonna take, you must give, or else someone's gonna end up cutting off the hand that feeds you. It's like you're gonna run out of those opportunities pretty quickly. This program, the Muse, have been a big part of me trying to get to know the community around me, because I'm someone that I've played in bars since I was 14, 15 years old,
That
but
tracks.
I never got in touch with Cincinnati's local scene. Like, I didn't go to Motor to see shows very often. I didn't live in Clifton A Point to get to know bands and that kind of sphere, and like the house show market. Like, and being on the road has helped me interact with scenes far outside of here, where I see that they have this very loving community.
Yeah.
And I started to feel like when I came home, I didn't have that. So I'm trying to curate it in my own life by finding ways to highlight other people and to keep my eye out and to have something to offer in that. But it is difficult when, like you said, we never know who's going to be able to offer us, the world. Sometimes an out-of-town band is going to come through here and they need help with a show where it's going to be a net negative for you to put all your leverage of getting people to shows behind this, to dedicate your Friday night to it when you could be out doing something else.
Yeah.
But you never know what's going to be in their home market when they decide to return the favor.
Yeah. And maybe you really like the sound of their music, or you see promise in them. Like I'm getting to the point now with some of my acts where I'm like, oh, there's like new little baby acts starting out, and like it's cool to watch somebody else go through that and like look at it with love and be like, I see something in you, like let me help you.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful feeling, and it's
well, and there's something, bands are so difficult in my opinion, because losing one bandmate can derail the whole fucking thing.
Yes.
Like, you can't, if the group is the point of the project, then you can't replace people.
Yeah.
This is never going to be the same.
I say that I'm dating 3 people when I talk about Mall Witch. I'm like, I am in a relationship with 3 people.
Yeah, and when you try to make everyone happy in any type of relationship, sometimes you find yourself making sacrifices for your own creative output that makes it feel fickle and less worth it. Do you think having your solo project is a big part of that balancing act? And was that something that you needed to keep kind of sacred when you started Mall Witch?
Yeah. Sappha is my anchor for sure. I think that it's not that I prioritize her, but I
really
love
like that you make it the third person too. Like,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, right? Yeah, Sappha is me, but also, who is that bitch? We don't know. We have no idea. Yeah, I think that being able to tell stories kind of straight as possible from my brain, like, especially because I'm producing it, right? So everything that you hear in the mix is curated by me, which I think is very important right now for Sappha, at least for like this first album. Like, I just want people to kind of hear it, how I interpret it. But Malwich is cool in that it's, you know, it's not just me. It's my voice diluted through the tastes and abilities and inclinations of like my bandmates. So I think that that's an equally interesting venture. But yeah, Sappha's very like sacred, literally, to me.
Yeah. No, you use the word diluted in that, and I normally would call it compromise, but I understand what you mean,
Yeah.
where it's like, I am a flavor.
Yeah.
That if you pour me into the group, it's going to need to interact. It's not like it's going to stay separate.
Yeah.
You know, these things are going to become one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful that my band is a rotating cast of folks that there's always new compromises when people come in. And those are the folks that are a big part of developing the sound of the project. But I've always needed to keep certain things at arm's length, especially when it comes to the writing process, because I cannot be derailed by losing a band again. Like, I went through that once in high school, and I was like, never again. I can't
in high
do
school.
Yeah, my first band with a gal named Chandler Carter, who I still love Chandler to death. Like, she's like a sister to me. But our first band broke up, and I had done all this work of trying to get us booked and trying to write songs for it. And I was like, my heart can't take this. You know, I can't deal with that three-person relationship where someone else can pull the rug. It's like,
Yeah.
in my musical life now, if this drummer can't do it, then there's a person after them and a person after them. And if I got to teach someone else new the set, then we're going to do that. But
Yeah.
no one is going to steer this off course because it's too demoralizing. But also you can't fall short of opportunities. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's something great about being an artist that has your production ability, the mechanism to play it live, and then the willingness to go and get it.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to rely on anyone else being there to make this happen.
So that's part of why you're the front man, I would imagine, in your band.
Yeah, that's why I would still call myself a solo artist.
Yeah.
But in the studio setting, it's the same folks that I bring out and that make up the recipe. And I always call that a funk commune because I'm asking you guys to come in and be their self, put their thumbprint on it. But I need space to just do my thing most of the time. And that's tough.
Yes.
Do you ever find yourself battling for creative ideas in Malwich, or do you more just say if it doesn't sit there, then it sits with Sappha?
I think we usually have pretty similar visions in Malwich, but a lot of songs that are very personal or about things that I've been through, my immediate thought is like, that's for Sappha, or at least we'll say it in a different way.
Yeah.
For
How
Sappha.
far do you get into songwriting before you make that which piles is going in?
Pretty early on, like usually when I'm writing lyrics, I can hear in my head, okay, this would sound great with a distorted guitar and like some really crunchy drums, or this would sound cool with some bleep bloop synths
Bleep bloop.
and weird samples from Splice and like a kick, like a big thumping 808. And then I'm like, well, you go here. But I often like reuse memories like you do. Like, I think you should with songwriting and like tell a story you've already told in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Yeah, to recycle. You know, there's only so much life to pull from when something's really visceral. Like, it deserves a new frame, a new frame, a new frame.
Yeah.
And then with all of them, now you kind of have all the meat on the bones of what this was to you. But I find that songwriting is the best chapter marks for how I remember my life. I am really poor with numbers and dates and kind of referencing those things. But songs help to frame what I was going through, and it kind of it's almost like smells, you know? Like, if you smell grandma's cooking, you feel like you're 9 again, you know?
Yeah.
When I play certain songs, like, I have a tune I describe as my childhood breakout hit. Then I have a couple of friends that demand I play it, and it embarrasses the fuck out of me. But it takes me back, and like it's very visceral in that. what's like the earliest songwriting experience you can remember?
I think when I was in Catholic school, I kept a lot of notebooks of lyrics, and I do remember being in like 4th grade and showing lyric ideas to this other girl who was kind of a bully, but we were like talking about being in a band together, and I think she was like fucking with me. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'll play guitar in your band," and I showed her the lyrics, and she was like
No.
yeah.
What
I remember
ass.
that, but I'm sure I was writing like probably just since I could write, I was like just thinking of songs, because I joined choir, and I was like, this is what I want to do forever. You know, were you in choir? Were you a choir kid?
I played guitar first. So
Okay.
anytime I ever did like a project outside of my own project, it was just guitar.
Yeah.
And at some point I realized that I can't just be a guitar player. I have to sing.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So guitar came first for you.
Yeah,
Got it.
way before. It wasn't for probably 5 or 6 years. I was like, I got to figure out this singing thing. And
Yeah.
it was fucking rough.
Were
I
you
remember
in middle school?
I was 9 when I started playing guitar.
Yeah.
And I was probably 14, 15 when I started like trying to sing.
Yeah.
And I have like really solid memories of my dad sitting at gigs like cringing when like I go for certain things, and like amazing parents, they would come out to all these shows, but like
Yeah.
the funniest part of this process is watching him be like, I don't know if you hit that. It's like, I'm fucking trying, dude.
That's great.
What was the first time that you showed your mom some like the Sappha material?
She's always listened to a lot of my songs, but I decided to start performing around when I was 18, and she would take me to a lot of my early shows.
Nice.
She's just always been my biggest fan, and we'll just go to my shows together like pretty much all the time. And it started to get more serious a couple years ago, and she would just always want to be there, and I've been experimenting a lot more recently. Like I've been learning how to do whistle notes. And
What is that?
so anything in I think it's the 5th or 6th octave, which is like the highest capacity of like sounds that we can make and hear.
So are you saying like 5th or 6th octave above middle C?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually in the 6th octave. So like when Mariah Carey hits like a super, or like Ariana Grande does it a lot in
Yeah.
her music. So just like those really, it almost sounds like you're whistling because it's in such a, I think your larynx is like super contracted.
Mm.
And so it's
And that's like,
very
is that like
difficult.
deep in your head voice at that point?
Yeah, super
Okay.
deep in the head voice. Yeah.
That's some wild shit.
Yes.
But
she was like super. I've just been trying to impress my mom. You know, when I'm writing music, I'm just like, all right, what would my mom think is super cool?
yeah. But that's awesome to have someone that knows you so intimately in mind to show these things to. It's like,
Yeah.
I think having you should please yourself above all things in the pursuit of songwriting, or else who the fuck are you doing it for?
Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone where it's like, I want to make their fucking jaw drop. So whether it's my wife or whether it's a stranger that knows that we partied together on this particular occasion, like,
Yeah.
to be able to soundtrack a moment that we shared,
Straight up.
yeah, perfectly, like that's the shit right
Yeah.
there.
I feel like no matter how much I blow up, I will always care about what my mom thinks more than I care about what any of y'all think.
That's deep, yo. So did you do any schooling for production or anything like that, or all self-taught?
No. Yeah, I did not go to college after high school at all, actually. I took some college classes when I was in high school, and then I was like, I'm going to, like, travel around and be a little creative weirdo and do self-employment and
Nice.
do whatever I need to do to make that work.
What kind of self-employment you do?
I do OnlyFans modeling,
Very nice.
and I am a musician, and I do some, like, fashion and, like, other freelance modeling now, too.
I just saw you did a runway gig recently, right?
Yes.
And was that like a Cincinnati-based thing?
Yeah.
Cool.
It was the first New York, well, it's modeled after like New York Fashion Week, I would imagine, because I think it takes place at the same time as it. But it's the first streetwear fashion week that Cincinnati has had.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when did you venture into like the OnlyFans stuff, like the subscription-based kind of work?
About the end of 2019, it was actually before the pandemic happened. So I guess like something in my internal clock was like, I think something really bad's going to happen. We should work for ourselves.
Yeah, well, what a great place to be where you're already on the platform. You have content established that.
Yeah.
How many people flooded right at the wrong moment there, where you're just part of the pool of folks that's never going to gain that kind of traction?
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be my full-time job, but it really worked out great because now I can set my own schedule and work whenever I want.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was right before the pandemic, and it just kind of started to pick up. So it's a secret persona, and you can't have it. But I have been talking about it openly because I think it's at this point. It's something that I've been doing long enough in my life. It feels like kind of part of my story, I guess, because I'm self-employed. And it's like doing sex work has enabled me to have the freedom to pursue my art. And so for that, I'm like really grateful.
Yeah. Well, and it's not as taboo as it used to be by any means.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered a similar type of model for your art in terms of music, especially like Patreon and things like that, or an OnlyFans that's based around what Sappha does musically?
So it's funny, I've actually been advised by marketing and A&R people to do that, people that I've talked to in the industry. And I've thought about it, but I think I'm more interested in putting out product via my songs first and just like kind of seeing where that goes. Or at least like, I don't know, keeping that mentality for like work. And yeah, but I did talk to an A&R guy who was like, I know a girl who like, she just does a racy OnlyFans, but then like she sings in some of her stuff or like it's promo for her art. And I was like, that's cool. But like for me, I think I just want to keep it pretty separate, probably.
Yeah.
At least right now, that's how I feel.
Well, and also to be able to keep those parts of your life separate so you can pursue them at different varieties. Like, everything's going to require more time, and all gig economy work is somewhat seasonal.
Yeah.
You know, you find people are interested in different things. Like, the moment the summer comes around, it's like, all right, I'm probably going to be on the road. I'm going to have more gigs. There's just more opportunities in that regard. But I keep wondering, especially as recorded music becomes less and less profitable, your value proposition to fans needs to reflect what you need to consistently do the thing.
Yeah.
Like at this point in my career, like I'm still selling CDs and I don't care that they're glorified coasters, because if I sell 20 of those, it's worth my year in streaming.
Right.
And if I can be the only CD in your car, every time your fucking Bluetooth doesn't work,
Yeah.
I'm popping on, I get another chance to say like, give this song a chance.
Yeah. Merch is so important for local bands because, streaming increasingly now is paying less. Like, I'm sure you heard about Spotify's cap for payout to artists. So they're going to be paying less of us.
And that really interested me in terms of, like, so I can't move on from material as quickly. I need to hit that threshold because there's unclaimed revenues after that point. Like, just because you don't make anything up till 1,000, once you hit 1,001, there is that 50 cents that you should have earned before that that will now come. So, have you ever done any like playlist promotion, things like that?
No, but I should.
So
I should.
My buddy turned me on to a company called Submit Hub, where you go in, you buy tokens for certain types of playlists.
Yeah.
And I found that when I tried to use a platform like that for an EP's worth of material, I had a hard time placing certain things, whereas other songs had a very clear category. Like, one track off my most recent EP that was more reggae found itself on a lot of playlists and got substantially more streams than all the other ones. And I probably put the same amount of tokens toward them, but it's because it had a lane, and that lane worked out for the particular Submit HUD campaign that I went on.
Was it a reggae playlist?
Yeah, it ended up on a lot of reggae playlists.
Dude, hell yeah.
That's not my genre necessarily, but that song definitely fits. So it's kind of giving me an aha of, okay, doing EPs is fun because we like to tell a cohesive story and walk through that. But it's probably more worthwhile to do the single and to say, I'm not getting off of this until it earns the traction to at least start to recoup what I've put into this. It's like 1,000 streams is now just, it's a landmark to tell me I can move on, but nothing gets left behind.
Yeah.
Not anymore, you know?
Yeah, that's really sick. It's cool how other people's perception lights the way for where you should go next. Like maybe that made you think about that song in a different way, or
Yeah.
consider that community for future projects, even if it doesn't mean that you like shift your sound. That's
How many
really
people
cool.
does that happen to, though, where you have one odd bird on your album and it gets all this love, and then you completely change your sound. You change your branding. You go, like to follow consumer tastes like that feels kind of detrimental to what you get out of it as an artist. But for your future success, sometimes you got to lean. You got to pivot where you're being told to.
Yeah, I think there's a healthy balance because I value other people's feedback because sometimes they're right, and sometimes, especially if they're non-artists.
It sucks when they're right and they're not artists. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You don't even know what. I tell this story a lot. My wife listened to my last EP right when I had said I'm done with it. She's like, "There's too much reverb on it." I was like, "How the fuck do you even know
How do you know what reverb is, you pleb? Yeah.
I should have called her a pleb. That would have been a good one. Like, burn.
Yeah, a super Reddit insult for your wife.
We didn't talk for 40 minutes after that. She was like, "I'm sorry I bummed you out." I was like, "I'm just pissed off you're right." And then I had to go back and fix shit. And it's like, it is really eye-opening that these people that are unimpressed by everything you do with that envelope filter and the fact that you found the right mastering chain and all this shit.
None of it matters if I don't vibe with you and what you're doing. Yeah, you can do whatever fancy shit to it, but like, who are you?
I like the bit of accent that came out and that fancy shit to it, So do you kind of take the songs to a focus group of friends when you're done with it? Or when do you start kind of handing it out just to see what people think?
I test the waters a lot on Discord to my closest friends, most of whom are musicians themselves.
Yeah. I don't understand Discord.
I'll teach you.
Really?
Yeah.
That
I got
fucking
you.
means the world.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get into streaming next year. I want to start doing a Twitch show on Mondays. Because, so the music is going to move to Wednesdays. And I was like, I need to be playing to the widest audience possible. And that is the internet. No bar is going to have the kind of wide variety of potential listeners that will. So let me just go on here and play a show like I normally would. I'll drink by myself in the basement.
Yes,
I got a bed
the
here if I
usual.
get too drunk,
Yeah.
So God bless.
You may as well, brother.
I,
Save yourself the moving the gear, you know what I'm saying?
well, then I still got to set up my shit and I got to go downstairs. I normally don't got to go downstairs, but whatever. I can suck that up. Have you ever done the Twitch thing?
Yeah, a little bit. I did a lot, actually, leading up to the release of my last single, Earth Angel, that came out in the spring. I would just randomly appear on Twitch like, "Hey guys, this was unplanned and unannounced, but I'm feeling like making music and going into my hole today, so I'm going to like do a million changes to this and you can be here for it."
That's
And
awesome.
watch it happen.
And what do you, as someone that's probably watched music streams of that sort, what do you think is the most important advice for folks going into that venture?
For streaming, just think about the viewer and the fact that they probably don't produce music. I do get a lot of producers who watch my stuff, but not necessarily make it more interesting to the point, like for them to the point where it distracts from you creating, but try to speak plainly about like the steps that you're doing as you're recording. Like if you're doing production, because a lot of it's very foreign to people, and just making it fun.
Yeah. As someone that's self-taught, do you find it easier to speak plainly to folks
Yes.
about what? Yeah.
Because I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So
Just
I'm like,
living
when I
free.
do this, it makes it sound like this. Like I
That's
kinda
compression,
do.
bitch.
Yeah, like that's compression. Like I know a decent amount because I've been doing it for like seven years. Yeah, I've been producing for 7 years, but I've branched out into very different software in that time, and I'm just educating myself via the internet entirely to
Nice.
learn what I'm doing.
Like
so.
Bjork, and are there any other channels that you would really recommend to folks?
Andrew Huang gives really good production advice.
Say that again, Andrew Huang?
Andrew Huang.
Huang.
Huang. He's a great resource for production. I've just like curated my TikTok and my Instagram feed at this point to be like mostly music producer stuff.
I really do love when someone's like, there's a gal named Seeds that does just like Logic Pro tips.
Yeah.
And she's phenomenal. I mean, like, she's really fucked my head up with some good advice. Like, but when you see someone do something artistic in their song and they walk you through how to do it, and you're like, finally, my intro doesn't fucking suck.
Yeah.
Because someone just gave you a little bit more of a flavor palette, you know, some cayenne to throw in that pot of chili.
Even doing acoustic instruments, and you record with the full band sometimes as well in your songs.
Most of the time. And I'm trying to figure out how to break out of that bubble necessarily, because, like, I don't know, someone that you probably program a drum loop, drag that, and then go back and start to add in variants. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Making things dynamically kind of tell a story, to make everything tell the same story. Like, it's nice to have that control, but I don't really know how to do that at this point in my production. Like, I'm used to a drummer being like, oh, I'm going to be soft on these sets, I'm going to be loud as these sets, and now they're fucking open. You know what I mean? Like, that's the story.
Yeah.
So when you were learning to program things that you don't necessarily play, was it just time spent, or how did you kind of develop your storytelling instrumentally?
I started with keys, and keys are cool because you can make any kind of synth out of that, and you can add like a pumper, so it goes like up and down on the beat and sounds really rhythmic like a drum, even though it's a key.
Is pumper just a term that you made up for it? Because that's
I think it's called a pumper.
Okay, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's stuff in EDM where it's like it's really loud all of a sudden and then really quiet, and it's like on the beat.
Oh, is that like
a pumper?
Like a side chain almost?
Yeah.
I was just about to look up some stuff. I saw a great Instagram video, someone saying like what the side chain exactly was.
Yeah.
Like your bass to your kick. And what confused me the most about side chain is like, who's supposed to come first in this fucking equation? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Or else I just end up with a kick just eating my vocal up the entire time.
Yeah, totally. Like side chaining. Yeah, like you can. It's basically as if you're side chaining the synth to the kick drum, so it's like up and down.
Yeah, but within the side chain, so like if you're gonna side chain the kick to the synth or the synth to the kick, is the kick gonna come through more when you're side chaining the synth to the kick drum rather than the opposite?
I think they are like pretty level. So where the kick would die down in volume, then the synth would come up. So that's, to my knowledge, that's what side chaining is.
Yeah, because then there's also like the phrase of like ducking, and it's like ducking makes sense to me. Like, you know, it's a classic dodgeball move. You know, duck, dive, dip, dive, and dodge. You know, have you ever seen the movie Dodgeball?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a classic. I forget what the name of that.
Maybe when I was in elementary school.
It's a geek. I mean, if you're ever like too stoned to do anything else besides put on something trashy, like it's a great movie for you.
Dude, hell yeah.
They throw wrenches at each other to get good at the game of dodgeball. It's intense.
Oh, word?
Yeah. There's also a hero named Patches O'Houlihan that he'll live on forever in the back of your subconscious. He's good for everybody. But yeah, it's learning those little things about how to free up the aspects of your story that you've worked so hard on. Like, this bass line really takes off in this last chorus. How do I make it shine more than the rest of the song has let it earlier, you know?
Yes.
Do you automate a lot of things in your production?
Yeah, so much.
Really?
Yeah, BandLab has been really good for that. I used Soundtrap, which is now owned by Spotify, and I just love web-based DAWs because I love being able to open them up at like anywhere and just be like at the bar, like, look at the song I'm working on. Like, I just did it like 2 hours ago.
And how do you bounce between DAWs like that? You exporting one final master? Okay.
Sometimes like
dangerous.
Yeah. Oh, it's always real dangerous. Because I'm like, I'm dependent on y'all to save this as well.
It's also like it's a level of super gluing everything to these subjective choices you've already made.
Yeah.
And like keeping that path clear. Okay, if I want to go back and change the way these BGVs sit, then I got to go back to the original Logic file. Then I got to bounce it out to you and to you.
Yes. I'll stick to one DAW after I pick, but I get around a little bit. But like, yeah, BandLab is
the neck. I go around a little bit.
I really like BandLab because you can automate any of the effects that you do. And in Soundtrap, you can only automate volume, pan, and there's a sweep filter, which it's not enough to like do like really crazy stuff. So BandLab is cool because like, yeah, you can, it's just any effect, like distortion. You can have distortion gradually come in, which is such a cool, like, thing to listen to for like a build up.
Yeah, and that shit gets so complex when you're trying to automate the way an effect works on a track when it's an insert on that track. Like,
Yeah.
I've been learning a little bit more about how to do that in Logic, but I think the hardest part of the process for me to kind of refine and commit to is when do I start to touch automation? Like, I had my buddy Dylan Etienne, who was in here a couple weeks ago. He talked about mixing through the whole process. The moment he starts on the song, he starts mixing. It's like, I'd really rather not touch this thing until I have to, or else it's going to get more fucking dangerous.
Yes, that's a great way to do it. Just think about what is the most important decision next that you need to make in the mix.
And don't get ahead of yourself from that aspect of it.
Just do the thing that's the most substantial. Like, if you're missing a whole nother part, don't go and like tweak the low end on the high end of the part that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Just go record like the thing that's in your head for the next thing that will finish the song.
That's very wise.
Yeah.
Because if
I don't always follow it, but that's the goal.
That's the chaos of being an artist.
Yeah.
I've thought about getting one of those like small, like just single faders so I can automate by hand. Because I hate adding dots and moving shit around.
Oh, it's so annoying.
It is. It's so fucking frustrating. Sometimes I haven't put the dot where I need to, so when I try to push, the whole fucking line skews. And then I see the fancy Instagram producers that have like the Slate Digital thing, so they're just fucking sketching on there. I'm like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, those are crazy.
Do you think you'll always be the one producing the Sappha materials?
No, actually, I have a couple collabs in the works, and I've been approached a lot this fall for collabs, and for the first time I'm being hired to do voice work by other acts.
Cool.
Yeah, sometimes people that just find me on Instagram. And my stance with collabs is like, I still want to vibe with your project. Like, I still want to fuck with you and what you're doing, at least under the name Sappha. But I was like, wow, this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, actually, is like find a career in doing voice work of some kind, ideally doing vocals. And so the fact that like just a couple months ago, a bunch of people started hitting me up and being like, hey, will you sing on this? Or will you harmonize with me on this? Like, just let me know what your rate is. And I was like, my rate? You know, I
think I gotta start keeping that note of like, what is my rate? Like, I gotta reference this shit.
My rate, I don't know. I've never been here before. But yeah, so I have a collab right now with my new friend Too Rich Benji, who I actually met for Cincinnati Streetwear Fashion Week. And he was one of the designers, and he's also a really amazing rapper and artist in Cincinnati who right now is touring in Europe and making big waves for the 513, and we love to see it. Yeah.
We need that kind of mutual encouragement.
Yeah.
So to represent the 513 very proudly makes people come here for, you know, like what's the biggest goal for our community? Musical tourism. Would people want to come to Cincinnati because they know that we got shit going on?
Make your concerts here, damn it, but also like come enjoy the local music as well. Yeah.
And it's so hard not to oversaturate in your own market when you're doing that kind of thing. Like, there's a difference between what we did on Monday, where this is just us getting together, just really have the company of each other, much less call in every fan you've ever made to try to sell out a show. It's like, no, we're in a bar, and we're just here for the mutual inspiration that comes around being exposed to the songs.
Yeah.
Versus if you're going to be at the Woodward, you're going to be on Fountain Square, like it's time to pour your heart and soul into every text that you send out saying, hey, I need you here on this date.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like there's so many times where artistically I'm kind of falling to the wayside, and maybe I'm losing a little bit of inspiration, or just a small inkling of like doubt is in my mind of like, what is the next thing that I need to do? I could do so many things as an artist to level myself up and push my career forward, and there's so many opportunities I could do, but like, what's the best one? And then one of my friends will ask me to get on a show, or tell me about a music video that they're working on, or offer to do photos for me for a cover art, or just to promote my work. And the opportunities that other people give to you, I think, are really grounding and make you remember like, oh, people are thinking of me and this journey that I'm on, which is often a very, very lonely one, or it can be.
Yeah. It's definitely your own little island.
Yeah.
And And I find that the conversations like this with folks like yourself, they're really going headfirst into, I know that this is going to work out. Just very defiantly saying, I want this enough to not take anything else.
Yeah.
That's the type of companionship that we all very much need in this process, because the amount of days where you feel like you didn't check the box of, did I move this forward?
Yeah.
It's tough on the mind. It's tough on the heart.
Who do you feel like has given you opportunities along your path as an artist? Like, who have been the most impactful people that have like welcomed you on their ship?
There's a couple of spots on the road that have meant the world to me. One of them is a spot in Aberdeen, North Carolina called the Neon Rooster, which is one of the first places that, like, the first time we played there, it was a sold out show. And they packed it with people that they thought would like the show, and they did. And they keep coming back for us. So to feel like for the first time a room full of people saw what I had to offer and not only wanted it but valued it as highly as I did, and really saw what I was trying to. They picked up on what I wanted to give, and they were there for all of it.
The people who organized the show, or the crowd, or
the crowd more. The people who organize the show, I'm forever indebted to them. I stay at their house when I'm in town. They feed us. My buddy Derek, who owns this club, his mother makes us breakfast when we leave the shows there, and it's fucking amazing.
Yes,
and they're the nicest
all you want
people
when you're on the road. Yeah.
Well, yeah, to get to know someone's family and to get to feel like they've made space for you in their home and in their club, and they tell people that you're worth it. It's like, that was one of the most affirming moments of my life, and I'll always lean on that on days where it's like, all right, how do I make more opportunities like that? But how do I also deal with opportunities that are in process to getting there?
Yeah.
Because you probably will never walk into another situation where the show's sold out before you even get there. But when you walk into an empty room and you had one person to play for, you play for them like it was those 75 people, and you keep coming back until it's 5, until it's 10. You beat your head against a goddamn wall and it goes from 10 back down to 2 because maybe you fucked up,
Yeah.
And you just stay fiery about it, because I find it's way harder to prove your worth in your home market because people know you for you. People see how much you play. People don't value the commodity as rare. Well, people don't see that as rare thing as these other towns will when you're only there once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So it's a tough game in that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think very notably Syria Mani. Are you familiar with
Syria's a
Syria?
gangster.
Yeah.
Her new album is fucking
Isn't it?
awesome.
I love her collabs. Like, her collaborative spirit is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that makes sense because she is always creating opportunities for other people. And I admire her a lot because, she's putting on shows. She's doing community work.
The Tribe Foundation is phenomenal.
Yeah. They do a lot of work giving back to the community and doing charity.
Yeah. Do you know Taylor Hughes? Shout out Taylor Hughes.
I think the name is familiar.
Yeah, she's an amazing photographer, videographer. She does a lot of things, but she's also very involved with the Tribe Foundation.
Oh, cool.
And she's just a saint of a person. Like, there's many people that are artists in our world that they do the thing, and then there's many people around them that you may not remember their name off the top of your head. You may not know exactly what they do.
Yeah.
But they are the movers of heavier rocks than you and I could push on our own. It's like people who make the whole thing come together.
Yeah, and it's so admirable, I think, when people are successful and the first thing that they think to do is not necessarily to pour back into themselves, but to pour back into their community.
Yeah.
Because they understand the feedback loop of, if I do something nice for other people, that energy will come back to me. And also it'll create a culture around me of people who want to do good things for each other because they feel good and they feel touched by the things that you've done for them. It's just a nice little back and forth of wonderfulness that I've been trying to be a part of and book my own shows and invite other artists on and just make people feel good about themselves.
Yeah, and curating that culture of the type of people that come to your shows and what they get out of your shows and how you want them to interact at your shows is a very difficult thing. I was talking to a buddy about how sometimes you need to fire bad fans. You need to, if you see something you don't like at one of your shows, you need to be the owner of that set and setting to say, like, this isn't how we do things here.
Yeah.
And as much as that
Yeah.
is an open door, if you pay the $5 you can get in here, like, I will not stand here and let you take away from the experience that the people I love are having.
Yeah.
And that I have worked really hard to allow them to have for us to have together. But it's a hard thing.
hecklers?
I love hecklers. I love the free bird yellers because I threaten to kick them in the teeth. They don't take me seriously because I'm not physically much of a threat. And then we pretty much stop it there. And if we have to keep talking about Skynyrd, I'll play him a different Skynyrd song. But, you know, there's something about hecklers that does keep it honest. And, like, you can be, like in your element.
Yeah.
And they fucking suck you out of the room. And they make you feel like, oh, I'm just a dude up here and they're just a dude out there. And I gotta deal with this.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Like, it's always gonna exist in our world.
Yeah.
Do you get many hecklers at your shows?
I just got my first one.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, with Malwitch. No one has dared interrupt a Sappha show before.
Nice.
But no, I was doing this like high note. I have a video of it because I flipped him off at a certain point. He was just really drunk, and it was funny. You know, it's okay. Free banter. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Yeah, but you have to have your character's way of dealing with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I was really hungover playing a show in Indianapolis, maybe about. It was race weekend for the Indy 500, so this place is packed. I mean, there's like 500-600 people in there, and this guy just keeps fucking with me. Like, he's playing with my fan. He keeps reaching at me. He's making my night so much worse for almost an hour and a half at this point. And I took a drink of water, and like so calmly that I didn't even realize that it would count as assault. I was like, I should just spit this all over his face. And I was like, no, that's definitely assault. I definitely shouldn't do that. But it's crazy how people will take you to these conclusions because they've escalated it so much. And you need to have a wider perception for how is that going to change the mood of the show. If
Yeah.
you just watch the singer of this band just unload half a water onto this dude's face. And then
Hopefully
maybe
respect will be garnered, but I don't know.
maybe I should have done it. Maybe you're right. If I want street cred, I might need to spit at people.
Do what works, follow that market.
Yeah. I always tell people throw shit if it's light, but no one's ever taken me up on that. And I'm really grateful for that because no one ever throws light shit. It doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
Think of a paper airplane. Ineffective.
Yeah.
Beer bottle. Nice choice. People fucking wild.
Yeah, how small is this bar?
Well, is there anything on the way out that you'd like to promote?
Yes, actually. I am working on a song with Too Rich Benji right now that is going to be on his next album. And it's my first experience recording in a studio ever. Sappha left her bedroom studio! What are we going to do? Yeah,
Birdie's out the cage.
It's crazy. She's getting out there. Yeah, I walked up into the studio and Gio Gedham, who's also going to be on this track. It's like the three of us on a track, which is really crazy. He was like improvising, and I had never heard of like somebody just coming up with lyrics on the spot like that. Like he was just doing it off the top. I was like, you are brave, like sitting on the mic right now. And Too Rich was just recording him. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to rise to the occasion. And so I did the same thing. And I was just coming up with ideas like in the booth. And then I went out to get Mexican food, and I came back and I had been writing. There was like some little plaza place that was like really good and like really authentic Mexican food, just like chilling.
In Cincy?
I can't remember what it was called, but it's
What part of town?
Bond Hill. It's in Bond Hill. But
I'm
it was
unfamiliar with Bond Hill for the most
slapping.
part. Okay.
It was slapping. But yeah, I was like walking back to the studio, just like putting lyrics in my phone. And yeah, so that song I think is gonna be called Believer.
Cool.
And I'm doing like a chorus on it. But yeah, probably January, February of 2024. And then I'm also doing a song for Alex Zelenka, who notably was an engineer for Crystal Castles, and now he just works with a lot of independent artists.
Cool.
Just all over the world. And
what about this debut Sappha album? When are we expecting that?
I'm hoping early 2024 because I have a lot of songs that are like almost completely done, and a couple of them are completely done for the album. So EP first, early 2024, and then Blood in the Garden of Eden is the whole album, probably later 2024.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for making the time.
Thank
you are
you.
a formal pimp of the game, and we love what you're doing. So keep it up, and I'm sure we will see more of each other around town at some point.
You will. Am I a pimp or am I a player?
Not exclusive. You can be both at the same time.
Cool. I
Yeah.
contain multitudes.
Yeah. Yeah. You have enough characters. We can
Yes.
develop these things.
Perfect.
My friends, it's been the Weekly Wave. Sappha, make sure you follow her. What's your Instagram? Tell the people.
It's sappha.mp4.
Bang. All right, y'all. We love you. Peace.